You know what it is, I've pondered over this and I've thought I don't know what to talk about, because I've talked about loads of different things in different places. And I think just a generalisation really around addiction and you know, how it's followed us all my life and the different methods I've used to, I don't know if escape is the right word, you know, try to overcome it, and how that process has altered my life in different directions. And then I had a horrific experience a couple of years ago after being sober for, I don't know, best part of 8 years type of thing. I end up taking pharmaceutical medication, which was a whole different kettle of fish, and really took us into insanity, like more than anything else. I've never experienced anything like it. And even that in its desperation led us on to a whole new other path. So I kind of say there's like a darkness and a light scenario with addiction.
Yeah.
If you allow it to be, instead of just sitting in the darkness, which is so easy, if you allow it to change you, then you can find yourself in a different pathway. You can grow from it.
I think for me, I've found as well, you know, because I'm just interested, you're always trying to figure yourself out as well a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And addictive personality is definitely a genetic trait, I think.
Yeah. And science recognises it as that.
And it's how you kind of, it's what you use with that, and you can put it into good things or bad things.
Yeah.
A lot of people who've gone through something extreme, or they've gone down the darker road, like you said, they'll come out and they'll be the fittest person ever, or they'll just put their energy into doing something else.
Yeah.
It's still a form of addiction, but it's being addicted to better things, you know. So, I mean, do you seen that a lot? Have you seen that?
Yeah, but there is definitely 100%. But there is another aspect of it. I'll probably get into that. You know, there's an aspect of just accepting who you are, and it's. I think people in general, whether they've got addictive personalities or not, they're always trying to escape themselves. You know, even work, sex, you know, friendships, anything. You know, we can choose things that mightn't be the best choices just because they allow us to take the focus off myself.
Yeah.
And I think learning to sit with yourself and unpack what's actually going on inside you and underneath the hood, I think is really what it's all about. But
Do you think, John, is it a kind of, obviously it's a little bit of nurture as well, because how you're raised and what you're around and how you can attach or detach emotion to things as well. Because if you're in a household that doesn't sit around talking about feelings and emotions or how you're feeling today, and if you're just getting shouted at all the time, if you're just in chaos and carnage, you know what I mean, then that'll kind of push you away from actually opening up, and you won't do that. So therefore, you haven't got the tools to kind of try and fix that or figure out that, you know. So that becomes you. And
which again is that unpacking under the hood. It becomes you. You know, identity is like it's a construct, isn't it? You know, in your head. You know, I think of me. It's like, for instance, you know, we say things like, you got children, you say, that's my daughter. You know, well, it isn't in reality. She's a little girl that you've brought into the world, but she doesn't belong to your world. People attach their "my" to everything, you know, and it's really interesting on trauma and situations that you've just described there, and they're perfectly true to an extent, but also on the other side of the coin, for every person who's in that situation you've described, there's also 4 or 5 people going through the exact same thing who never become addicted. And the Holocaust proved that more than anything, you know. The people who survived that didn't go and waste their lives on drinking and drugs. I'm sure some of them did, but they'd be the same percentage of the ones who didn't end up in the camps, exactly the same. And I think when it comes to treating addiction or living with addiction, the medical fraternity and people of the like, the support structures, they all lean on heavily that what's the reason for it. If we only find the reason for it, it's your trauma, it's your upbringing, it's the fact that your family all died or whatever. If we can find the reason for it, then we can go back and fix what caused it. That's impossible.
Do you think a lot of people kind of hold the fact of they try and find an excuse for the reason why they are who they are? Do you think that's the case? I'm not generalising because I can't generalise, and I wouldn't say that, but it's just for me, I'm always picking up patterns, and I've done that myself. It's like, why am I such a victim all the time?
That's
you know what I mean? It's a victim mentality, and for me, victim mentality it's poisonous. Man, you know what I mean? You have to get away from that, you know, because you could change it. You're right. There could be somebody and just got on with it and moved on, and put an action forward, and then dealt with it through an action. But also, their mind might be kind of wired differently as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think when it comes to like sort of excuses, or what was the other thing you said? I forget how you worded it. It was good. I don't think it's like a conscious excuse with a lot of people.
Like victim mentality.
Yeah, I think they can rely on it, but I'm not 100% certain they're aware they're doing it. It's not like a spoiled kid acting out and not fine. Well, it'll get some attention, or it'll get whatever the object is that it desires. You know, I don't think it's that. I think you become engrossed in that type of victim mentality, and they become less aware that they're performing that type of way, behaving that type of way. And I've done the same things. You know, it's not to criticise anybody, especially when you really realise that you're in dire straits with addiction for the first time, when it's went from that situation where it's all being fun to the fact that I'm doing it and I don't really want to, the fact that it's having consequences, and then the fact comes where it's like, right now I realise this is really, really bad for me and I need to stop, and then bush, you can't. And then all desire in the world is like, you know, it's pointless, doesn't help in the slightest. And I think it's easy in that scenario that then the first knee-jerk reaction would be fall into victimhood and, you know, and start looking for, well, what caused it? She left us. It's her fault.
Your fault.
Yeah, and it's all that, you know. And I think that's perfectly natural. I think that's perfectly natural. I think we all do that to a certain degree. But you were very right. The way you worded it there is the quicker we get out of that, the quicker we start finding out what's really going on. Because until we find out what the real problem is, you kind of find a solution.
I think it's just sitting with yourself and kind of being comfortable with that kind of.
Yeah, that's the point.
It's hard sitting with yourself. Jim.
Yeah, very.
I cannot sit with myself. It's really tough.
Yeah.
I'm doing nice baths and all sorts. I'm trying, mate. But I find the older I'm getting as well, the harder it becomes.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think it's kind of something about self-expectation. Mine is ridiculous. And if I'm not meeting that, which I don't think I am, then I'm failing.
Yeah. And that's a form of fear, you know. That's a form of fear, even though a lot of people wouldn't see it as a fear, and they wouldn't label themselves as being fearful about that. But the mind racing, and this is a key point of addiction, is fear of what's going to come next. So in your scenario, what you've just described briefly there, the way I'm picturing it, you've got this work commitments to meet, you've got other stuff to find, you've got a lot going on, and you're spending your time where you should be self-caring in the house, plotting and scheming. How am I going to get through this next one? How's I going to make the money for the bills on this? What about this job if it goes wrong? I'm just guessing that's the scenario you would describe.
They're doing better than me, all that stuff.
So the mind's getting faster and faster. So you've got problem, no solution. So all the time, all it is, it's creating fear. You know, because the body's way, they talk about fight or flight, but it's a little bit more in depth than that when you look at it. It's a body's way of spurring you on. We've got a problem on the horizon. You know, what we want to do about it now, so that we can be ready for it when it comes. And then the other part of your brain saying, I can't find anything to do now. So it speeds up even faster. And then you find yourself, who could sit with themselves like that?
I did a bit of therapy, John, and what he said was, you live in a constant state of fear, right? And you have no self-worth. I'm like, it's a canny,
well, that's a safe bet there, you know. I hope you didn't pay him too much, because he probably said that about 15 other people that day.
But the thing is, it wasn't a shock, you know. You know what I mean? I just know that. It's kind of one of them things. I go, all right, so what's the plan? There's no quick fix. There's a management. And I think a lot of guys, especially when it comes to mental health, we're all trying to mask stuff. But the problem with fellas, right, is we are reactive.
Yeah, very.
And that's the thing. It becomes fighting or whatever it is. It's a reaction from an emotion, and you want to get it out, and you want some kind of quick fix. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a
instant gratification.
But if you sat with it, and an hour later, your mind will change. You'll change
all
your
the time.
whole thought process of that. Do you know what I mean?
All the time.
And that's an important thing, is to get people to understand that your life can be much different in 5 years. You're going through some shite now, right?
Will be.
Ride it out, right? It's a roller coaster, up and down, right? You have to ride it out, but it's up to you. Do you know what I mean? You can't control people. You can't tell people.
No, I'll try that.
But, I mean, I mean, we're firing on all cylinders, John? Off to a good start. I love it.
We start the camera.
You're probably doing me a therapy session, I'm enjoying this, you know.
Just on that one, you know. Have you started the camera?
It's been rolling for 10
all
minutes.
All right, cool. On that one there, what you were saying, well, reactive. Males are reactive. That's very true. And this is something that's been a massively useful tool for me. Instead of being reactive, be responsive, right? But that's just a saying, that's a buzzword. That how do you do that, right? And I learned the more I could quiet my mind, and it didn't have to be silent and still, because that's impossible. They reckon, I was talking to these Buddhists, I didn't know, I was 7 or 8 years ago, and they said to us that it's 5 or 6 seconds for the mind to toss a thought in. And the more quiet and still things are, the more it'll toss it in, because it wonders what's going on. It's not its natural state. It states to be busy. So in a way of being responsive, in that scenario you described, you've got work scenarios going on, you need an answer about this, that and the other, and we want to react, we want to get straight into it, what's the answer, what's the solution? And this has worked for me, but I've tried it more times than it worked, if that makes sense, because I've probably been in the wrong frame of mind the other times. But I ask a question and deliberately not answer it, right? So you've got something serious going on in your life and say to yourself in the head, question, boom, and then try and do something else. And watch how the answer comes later in the day. Just shoots into your mind and you think, you know, instead of saying, how am I going to get out of this? Right, do that, do this, do this. You just trip yourself up.
Aye, no, completely. And I listen to a ton of podcasts. It's all, well-being and all that kind of stuff. And they say like depression's looking into the past, and anxiety's looking into the future.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of right, but it's so hard to sit in the present.
Yeah. That's the task, like.
But how do you kind of deal with that? Is it a main part of how you kind of handle yourself?
I got into meditation years ago when I first got sober. I mean, I went through a rehab 13, 14 years ago, and I've done a little bit in there. First thing on the morning, you're talking like a 5-minute thing, and a couple of readings, and I kind of developed it further. I got involved with groups, which I'm no longer in. They kind of served the purpose in the course, but I kept practicing it on my own, you know. And it's been very helpful, but other times it's been, I've just done it for the sake of doing it, just to not stop. And it hasn't been helpful at all, but the fact is I knew if I stopped, then I would leave it behind forever, and that it would be helpful later in the future if I kept going. And walking slowly, because I'm a really fast walker, and I find the faster I walk, the faster my mind goes. It's just trying to take in too much information that's passing it.
Okay.
So I deliberately, and this is not all the time, but I deliberately take a period of time every day where I try to walk as slow as I can, and just slowly look around, you know, because I find if you look at people, more so phones nowadays, but before phones, if you look back, the heads would be down looking at the pavement, scurrying, you know, like a set of rats, you know, where you going? Well, where you off to, you know? Hurrying up to get home and still what? Sit in front of the telly.
Yeah, no, I know, I completely agree. Right, so, I mean, I want to flip it back to kind of how you, like, what's your life like? What's young John's upbringing?
Everything's always been complicated, to be honest with you. I'm the only one. 2 wonderful parents, absolutely wonderful. I don't know how I'd survive this life without them. But
so they've always been supportive then, John? Yeah?
Always. Well, there was a period of time where my dad didn't talk to us for a couple of years. My mother back-heeled us for a short period, 3 or 4 months. But apart from that, yes. You know, I put them through some stuff over the years, which is I'm not particularly proud of, neither ashamed of, but, you know, I would have done things differently if, you know, if I had my time again. I grew up with lunatics. There's a friendship group, and that kind of was the weird bounce from one set of loonies to the next, you know, and some of them done some awful things, long prison sentences, things like that. Anyways, I left school, which school was always challenging just through behaviour. I spent some time in the Royal Marines when I was in my teens, 17 and onwards.
Do you find that was a little bit of an escape, and you're finding your own purpose and getting away from the kind of
maybe. I don't know. I've thought about that part of my life lots of different ways, but I didn't know. I've always thought I just did because there was nothing else to do.
Aye.
It was that time, you know. So then there was some serious relationships. I've got 2 sons to two different ladies. They were up and down, chaotic. I worked in factories for a long time and building sites. I ended up in prison.
So what's all of this, where's this all kind of stemming from then, John? If you're kind of going, look, I've got my parents are great, and is it just like wrong friends group, getting in with the wrong people? wanting to be a part of something, kind of joining in, like, you know, showing face or what?
I never felt like I was like anybody else, and I've got a lot of friends who stay sober now, you know, different reasons I'm in contact with them, and it's a kind of underlying thread. I don't think it's the main cause of addiction. I think it's a personality trait of people who've, as you say, got addictive personalities. And I just felt different right from being an infant. Cousins, friends in the street who were all canny. I'm talking as a toddler. I just knew something was different, and I don't mean in a particularly good way or a bad way. I didn't feel like what was going on inside of me coincided with what I seen on their outsides.
So you just felt you didn't fit in? Was it always in your head, or was it just kind of, what was it?
I managed to fit in. It's hard. I just didn't feel it inside like I was like them.
Did you feel like to put on a hat, like a different personality to kind of be in with people? Do you find you kind of like a chameleon? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Okay. Over the years, I think I've only recently stopped doing that over the last few years. Well, I would just accept myself for who I was, and at the same time be proud, but not prideful of who I am. Comfortable with myself, comfortable in my own skin.
You always want to be somebody else as a kid, because we look up to kind of,
I think fantasy
stars and all that. Do you know what I mean?
Fantasy was my first addiction, if I'm honest. You know, I can remember particularly, we're at my cousin's house, and I'd managed to let myself out. I think I must have been about 5, and I remember walking, and I was just in this complete fantasy. And I remember my cousin come out the side door, and I could tell by the way he was looking at us, it was as if to say, you're not wired up right. Yeah. And I was in some type of fantasy world just to escape from who I was. It wasn't like I wanted to be somebody different. I just didn't want to be me. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's just kind of, it's almost like it's a natural thing you had to do at the time, and you didn't know why you were doing it. You just did it, you know?
So, anyway, so about where was I again? And then I ended up in a rehab, and that's how I met Helen after that. I got 6 months sober and I had a relapse. And I went back to see the counsellor at the rehab, and he said to us, you need to do some service in the community, you know, get yourself busy. And I went, all right. And so he says, I'll email you a list of volunteer roles. So he did, and I printed them off, and there was about 100, 2 columns. And I held it up like that. And I just seen my street. You know, the street I was living in the town at the time. And the office block was at the end of the street. So I phoned up and asked, and made an arrangement to meet Helen in a cafe. And my whole life changed. I went from job to job, and she supported us massively. She's just an incredible human being. You know, she pushed us when I needed pushing. She held us back when I was getting ahead of myself. And I stayed with her for about 3.5 years. And then I went to different roles: addiction, mental health. She was in homelessness. Then I went to support people in the criminal justice system, and later on I ended up working for probation. And I left that. I got my young son, I'm not going to go into him because he's got his own issues, and I support him. You know, and he's been with me 3 years now, and that has been extremely challenging. And like I say, I'm not going on about him, but I found myself at the point where we were talking about that anxiety earlier on. It was completely out of control. It had passed that. It was more on the lines of regular panic attacks, borderline terror, and I started taking diazepam because I could see a drink coming. I knew I was going to drink, and I wanted nothing like that. I thought I'd be no good to him, no good to myself. Everything's really bad at the minute, but it's going to really fall down if I start, because I don't drink like anything in any sane way. And so then I took them instead, and they did exactly what they say on the tin. Everything was great. You know, the anxiety was gone. Not really stoned or drunk or anything. You know, you're off for the first few, but once your body gets used to them. And then about 4 or 5 months just feeling absolutely amazing. And then they started a bad reaction on us. And I had to go right round the houses, because my sister-in-law phoned the crisis team. She could tell I wasn't worried. And they come out, and they noticed they've got a system called REWA, and the computer system. And if you're a veteran, there's a flag on it. You know, there's flags in for different things in the corners. And there's one for veterans. So they sent this dynamic duo out, right? They were just amazing blokes. And they helped us get, you know, they tried to get us help from outside of the area because I didn't want to go back to a service that I'd worked for. And some colleagues were still there, especially one in particular who I was very good friends with. I didn't want him to want that. Anyways, the psychiatrist pulled us off them. She took 7 months to withdraw from this drug. And it was great for a while. And then when it got down to the last 6 weeks, it was just, I've experienced nothing like it. It's not a case of physical withdrawals. It's not a case of depression or anxiety. It's not anything like that. And I found myself researching, looking, the suffering started to get that intense. I started researching this big style because I couldn't leave the house. I developed agoraphobia. And I literally couldn't leave the house. My doctor's is at the end of the street, and these lads were tacking us in the car down to my doctor's. I mean, out and walk for miles. I just couldn't pass the threshold. And so I'm researching it, praying that I would find some solution that would just ease it, because I knew it was going to get worse because they were reducing it every 3 weeks. And there was nothing, and it just felt like all hope went. It felt like somebody opened the gates of hell and just kicked us in. And then by the time it got down there, like the lowest dose, 2 milligrams, I just hit the drink. I just couldn't cope. I hadn't slept for 10 days. Psychosis was, I was flying into my head. Body was veering off to one side. A massive throbbing pain in this bump at the back of your skull, and numerous other crazy things. And when I'd been researching, looking for a quick fix to help us through it, and also I read other people's experiences, and it's and you hope that it's going to see things like this will be over within 6 weeks. And one guy had suffered with it for 3 years, non-stop, every day. Well, that just sent me in a blind panic,
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they managed to helped us get some money together to get off to a rehab, a very good rehab down Scarborough, and a detox in Manchester. And life's been good ever since. That was December, so we're in July now, and that's kind of a brief synopsis of my life.
So this is quite a recent thing then, John,
This was
really.
started the withdrawal from the Dyer's apartment was November, because we went to New York to take the boy over for Christmas, and he was boxing at the time. I took him to Gleason's, and the start of November, and it was April, but about April where I picked up, we had really started to suffer. I think it was about a month or two after that I started drinking. Can't remember the exact dates, but that was roughly it. Okay. And like December, I was in the treatment centre in Scarborough.
Can I spin this back to your first addictions? How old were you when you started? Like, was it alcohol that you started with?
Pretty much. It wasn't just alcohol. We were sniffing glue, sniffing gas. We used to steal motorbikes at the time. We'd be breathing the petrol out of the tank.
As a teenager?
Yes, probably before 12. I was arrested for drunk and disorderly at 12.
What was that from? Like, what were you doing?
What happened was, me and my friend went in the house, and I mean, it's laughable now, it's stupid. But my mum and dad were out, and there was a bottle of Pernod, a litre bottle of that. And I gave him a glass, and I poured me a glass, and he didn't like it. And to be fair, I didn't like much either, but trying to be mature and show off in other ways, I finished the 4 litre off by myself. And he says, we'll go to town. Well, I was all right, we got on the bus, and we sat upstairs. By the time the bus got to town, my legs didn't belong to me. So I slid down the stairs, and he managed to drag us off the bus, and he just left us on the pavement. But I think one of the bus drivers phoned the police, and they come along. I don't know where they got the disorderly from. I was drunk and incapable. Right. I think I must have swore at them or something, Yeah. And they just picked us up and took us away.
Is that at 12? Really?
But I remember...
So how does that happen though? Because you mentioned like your parents and stuff. How do you get away with stuff like that at that age?
They were both drinkers. My dad still is. My mum doesn't drink. She has double whiskey every night before she goes to bed.
So something they just don't notice when you rock up in the house, or have you just got
No,
like
they were
freedom?
drinkers, and I think, my mum's got a lot of... I've had to talk her about this loads of times, because she blames herself. She says things like, I had a couple of bottles of brown ale when I was pregnant and things like that. I said, it's not your fault, this man, don't be daft. Because she's seen the state, I've been very brief on my addiction here, but she's seen the hell it's took us through over the years, and the trouble it's caused them. And I said, Mum, this is not anybody's fault, man. Not mine neither, I'm dealing with it, it's a situation that happened. And even if it was somebody's fault, it's certainly not yours.
I think it's a kind of, that seems to me, it's a generational thought process, because you go, I had 2 bottles of brown ale when you were a kid.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's, you see what you do, you're drinking, that means I'm going to drink because I came from you, and I'm a product of you, so I've got the personality traits of that. That's the important thing there, and I don't know why that generation doesn't understand that, really. I really can't. It's sort of, I scratch my head and go, well, it's right in front of you, or is it just because of they're not surrounded? We're so much surrounded by answers all the time, the internet, everyone's talking about it. They kind of weren't. It wasn't a discussion point, was it? Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, well, you smoked, so you got cancer. Smoking was good for you back then.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Doctors used to advertise it.
Yeah, mental. So clearly they didn't understand that. So you're just kind of, as a teenager, just cracking on, doing your own thing, getting into trouble and all that.
And you don't know what you're doing, really, as a teenager. You think you do. You think, I mean, I've got a 17-year-old living with us at the minute, and he thinks he knows everything, God love him, you know, but I look at him, I think I haven't got a clue what's going on. But when I was his age, I'm like, they're different, man. They're different. We just faking it. We just bluffing it all the time, hoping that nobody else notices. And why would anybody else notice? Because they're too busy doing the same.
So were you kind of like functional at this point? Is that
as a kid?
Like kind of, because you obviously you've gone through it, right? And then you start, you go to work, you got your first job. Are you just doing it on a weekend? Is it every night? What is it? Is it drink? Is it just a dabbling in and out?
I've done a lot of drugs. We went through a stage with ecstasy and cocaine. A lot of that I used heroin in prison. It was anything to get us outside myself, really. But I'm not 100% certain was when I turned to the daily drinker. My oldest boy's 34, and I remember I would be on night shift and I would come home, and it was only like 4 cans, but it was every morning. And I used to take them on the field and kick the ball, and I'd take me 4 cans with us and then go to bed. And somewhere around that period in my life, like in between jobs, if I would lose a job or I would pack a job in, there would be a period of 24/7 drinking until I found another job. So the lines are kind of blurred on that. It didn't just happen where I was going to the pub on a Friday and Saturday night and then went to the, you know, a morning drinker. You know, it just kind of worked its way into my life. And in a way, when that was happening, I was still really enjoying it. You know, because I'll never ever deny the fact that I loved the effect that alcohol will give us, and I loved the taste of it. And I hear a lot of people, I only ever drank it for the effect, I only ever drank it because of this was happening. You know, well, I loved the drinking culture, I loved the taste of it, I loved the effect it gave us, I loved the people, half the people I wouldn't associate with now, not the other half, but half of them I wouldn't associate with, but in drink, I loved being around them. You know, there was the excitement, the danger, the craziness, just everything about alcohol. It turned me right on.
Because it's a lifestyle, isn't it? It's the same as drugs. I mean, you know, I mean, you can't deny, I mean, the 90s were quite the time for that sort of thing, weren't there? But you probably had some really good memories from that time as well.
I've got good memories through everything. I remember, you know, my most recent experience, you know, I was drinking 3 bottles of whiskey, sitting in the house, getting up, I mean, I wasn't sleeping at all, I was sleeping like 2 hours a night, and I would get up and all I was drinking, and there's still, and I mean, I was hopeless, I felt no hope at all, I thought I'm gonna die in this chair. This is it, it's how I'll never get out of this one. And I still remember there was times, just the odd time, where I would find myself laughing for no real reason. There's always a reason to be joyful and happy. It's just really difficult to find out when you're in this shit. You know? But there's never been a period in my life, even in prison, even going through divorce, you know, and being manically depressed at them situations. There's still something really tickled us, and I've found, like, whether it be 5 minutes or a day, where I thought, you know, this isn't as bad as what it is. The next morning it is. But, you know.
But it sounds like you're functional, though. You've just said there, you know, you were married, you got jobs, you were all right, you're cracking on, you're doing your thing, you got a family. So was it an up and a down period of this kind of stuff? Did you have the highs and lows, or was it just a continuous kind of, I'm drinking all of the time? Or
no, there was definitely highs and lows. I think there is with everybody. I don't think anybody goes through any type of addiction by drinking or taking a substance and it being horrific from the word go, because you would break free of it while you still had the chance. If the first thing it did was slap you across the face before the addiction really got hold of you, you would walk away from that substance. that's part of the trap, you know, what you're talking about, functioning, having a family, enjoying it, nights out. But there was always consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could never have a night out without being in a fight. Could never wake up the next morning without upsetting me, looking at my wife and knowing fine well I'd upset her, I'd said something awful. And if that was it, that was it. And the rest of the time it'd been great, but there was always something.
Yeah.
And as each month and year passed, them consequences got more and bigger and just became unbearable for me and whoever was around us.
Yeah, so
it's progressive.
Yeah, because at one point somebody has to go, that's enough, I can't do this anymore, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at what age was it kind of getting worse and worse?
I was in prison. I had my 30th birthday in prison. I'll tell you.
What did you go in for, John? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was GBH. I hit a bouncer with an ashtray in the town. We ended up in a fight, and I just recently bumped into him for the first time in a lot of years, and we were hugging, and I apologised to him and stuff like that. But previous to this, he used to like attack us from behind every time he seen us. But it was a crazy thing that happened between me and him, to be fair.
But this is one thing. But these incidents happened all of the time.
Like that type of thing, yeah.
It did, and it's just that one time it went a little too wrong, if you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and it went too far.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
It was revenge with me. I jumped over the fence coming through the back door. He was stood at the door, and I opened the door and I lashed him. It wasn't just someone went too far. I went out my way to maim him. The mood I was in at the time, I was wanting to kill him. But I'm pleased I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. So
and if he says this, you know, I forget it. Owen, you know, I didn't want to kill you anymore.
But that there, I mean, that just says it all, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's the rage that you had at the time because of the mindset you're in, because of all the stuff you're going through. And then did you go straight to prison? How long was that for?
I got 18 months, and what happened was, I was in Denham for a little while, and then they moved us to what's now Northumberland. It was Acton at the time, and this is the bit I want to get to. So by this time, I've been here a while, and you've got a kind of little group of friends going on, you know, and it would let you out every 3 nights for 2 hours recreation, bit telly, chess, stuff like that. We crap on not cards, but the computer games and everything. So this second time I'd seen this, what I thought was an old bloke, he was younger than what I am now, walking along the landing, in and out of his cell. And I says, does anybody know who he is? And everybody looked and just didn't care, you know what I mean? Nobody's bothered about anything. And I thought, you know how it is, he's just wandering about on his own. I've just noticed him. I'd noticed him the time before, but that was just like noticing passing. This time I'm thinking, who is he? So I went over and I spoke to him, and I asked what he was in for, and he'd killed his wife. And I said, all right. I was a little bit took back. And I said, what happened? And he says, I don't know. He says, she was in a chair, and I come around in a chair out of a blackout. And he says, I had to phone the police, and they worked out I'd strangled her. But he said, I was a complete blackout drunk. He said, I've got no memory of it. And anyways, they'd accepted a manslaughter charge, and he was doing 8 years. And then he said something really, really weird. He said to us, he says, and I cannot wait to get out of here so I can get back on the drink. And that really disturbed us, you know, because, and I didn't mean to paint myself as an awful person, and I didn't want to say something I regret, but in that split second I could say, I thought, I could end up in a similar scenario to him. This is where drink takes you. And I made it a resolution. I even wrote to my girlfriend at the time, there's no drinking outside of Friday, Saturday nights from now on, right? And anyway, I'd keep missed that. And then she pulled up in the car when I got out, and I went to give her a hug, and I seen the tray of cans on the back seat, and I was drunk before we got home.
Really? But she brought that though?
She brought that, yeah. But I didn't have to drink that. I made a resolution that I was going to be Fridays and Saturday nights only.
Right.
Not Tuesday mornings.
Okay. So even just straight away, you couldn't control yourself.
Yeah.
Is that because you just got out and you just go, oh, sod it?
Probably, yeah. I definitely think that was what I was saying to myself.
Aye.
But that didn't materialise in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
We were drunk for, you know, she had her own business at the time. She's lost a lot now. And we were lying in bed drinking cocaine and taking cocaine and drinking vodka out the bottle.
Yeah.
And she was that type. But within a year after that, we were split up. But I don't think there was a sober breath then. Yeah. There was no. I wasn't working. She was barely going to work. She was taking the work on the phone and making sure people in the factory were doing all right.
Yeah.
And she'd gone in twice a week.
Yeah. So you mentioned heroin as well earlier on in prison.
Yeah.
So when did that happen?
That was just in prison. I never.
Is this the first time you went to prison? Did you do that? Or so have you only been to prison once?
No, I was in detention centre twice as a kid.
Right, okay. So when were you introduced to that? Because that's the heaviest of all, isn't it, really? Or is it not? You tell me.
No, it probably fits the description. I was on the cleaners wing, and there was a lad in there, and it's a long story how we got to meet. And he come up from Exeter prison, and he was a bit of a character. And anyways, we ended up becoming friends, and we ended up on the same wing, on the cleaners wing. And he had it, and I was just down in the dumps. You know, I was just a bit pissed off for everything. So I smoked that probably half a dozen times. But if I'm honest about that, that wasn't my thing. And I could have used that any time I wanted it, but I didn't like the sensation that it gave us, you know. It was very heavy, you know, very asleep type of thing.
Are you more of an upper?
Alcohol
doesn't.
A little bit of both, to be fair, but heroin's just a different thing altogether. It's just a different experience. It leaves you feeling like you're just coming out of a sleep. That didn't really do it for me. I don't want to feel like I'm just walking about asleep.
Aye. So what made you take that? I mean, we've just been talking about reaction.
I know.
And it's another thing that points straight to it. Sod it. Why not? Because I feel like shit.
Probably something pathetic like arguing with my girlfriend or something like that. That'd have been something like that.
Aye. But it's always a case. But heroin though, I'm arguing with my girlfriend. That's a canny jump in it. But you're in prison, so what else is there to do? Do you know what I mean? Is it one of them cases like you kind of, well, what else? What else can I do to appease this moment?
You know, they were brewing hooch on the wing and all, and I didn't have the slightest idea they were doing it until the prison officers come along and said they were going to put everybody in the block if it happened again.
Aye. You feel left out?
Aye, very much so. Why did they want to shout with me?
Why did you not tell me about that? So you're out, you're drinking, and obviously, is this after your girlfriend? Is it after the family, the divorce, all that kind of stuff? I'm just
no,
intrigued.
the girlfriend was like somebody I was with for about 3 years, and it was a little while after that I got with my youngest son's mother.
Yeah, and did that kind of set you a little bit more on the straight and narrow? Is it any point are you going, I can't do this anymore? When is that point?
She's the only one I think I ever tried to stop for. And it was just a disaster. No, I couldn't do it. There would be coming in from work. I was working on the buildings through Newcastle, and in the car, coming from work, and I would pick cans up, take them in, and she had us promised to go around Town End Farm Club and have nothing more than 4 pints, and then I would drink the cans and all in the car on the way down to the club and come back and drink them before going back in the house. So all that sneakiness started. And she became aware of that. And this was before we were married. And we nearly didn't get married. We got married in the Caribbean. And the morning we were about to fly out there, I ended up in a blazing row where I left, went back to my flat and said, I'm not marrying you. She had to come out with her dad and bring on the door. I think it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not coming out, you know, like a spoiled kid. And then when they stopped asking us, I jumped in the car.
So you end up getting married.
Aye. And that was fun.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's sort of obviously it's not a healthy kind of mindset that you're in at the time. Do you know what I mean?
None of that.
So
it's insanity, Mum.
Yeah. So after, I mean, we can definitely talk all day about this full journey, and I'd love to. But let's maybe just jump along a little bit. Is the cleaning up a little bit and finding a bit more purpose. At what point are you changing this attitude? At what point are you more self-aware? And let's get to that place.
Right. What an interesting question. At what point?
So there was no eureka moment or anything?
No. There was some really nasty moments that made us decide that I needed to do something about the situation and the drinking and all of that. But I think I've took your question wrong. Self-aware. I was thinking more in self-aware as I am now. What's going on? Aware of that I need help with solving the.
One of these moments sounds like when you were in prison and that guy said, "I can't wait to get out to drink." That kind of stuck with you.
Stuck with us all my life.
That's the thing. Like I don't want to do that. That's for me. That's a self-aware moment. Do you know what I mean? So it's things like that of kind of. I At what point are you like, I'm done? You know?
I was living by myself in Roker Avenue.
How long ago?
2012 was when I went into treatment, so for about 3 years before that. So we're looking around in 2009, 2008.
Did you volunteer treatment as well?
I begged for it.
Did you?
I begged for
Were
it
you
by the
just
time.
like rock bottom? Because that
yeah,
for
yeah.
me is, that's a self-aware moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I talk about that? Like going from rock bottom. Let's start with rock bottom, please.
Okay. So I'm in this flat and I've been pretty much drinking non-stop by myself. Ben would come over my ex-wife would bring the Ben down on a Sunday morning, spend a bit of time in the flat, she'd pick him back up. I'd meet my mother in the town, get her drunk on her money. She would be promising to buy us something to eat, more drinking, and that was just the gist of my life. And a couple of friends that I would see once or twice a week. And I drove myself absolutely insane. I was in and out of the bed, drunk, tired, get to bed, get up, drink, and it was different hours every day. Does that make sense? I'm not wording this properly, but I'm in and out of the bed at different hours and just sitting in the chair drinking. The shop was downstairs. I'm robbing Peter, P and Paul. And this went on for quite a bit of time. I just felt my mental health snap. I just felt my mind just king, you know, and I was like, what is that? What is that? And that really, really frightened us. Anyway, so I thought my solution to this is just, and I knew what had caused it. I knew the drink had caused that. I wasn't daft. And my only solution to that was to drink more. And in the end, the drink just stopped working. I couldn't get to sleep. I had to listen to what it was saying. And I could physically feel my mind, my brain. The pain was inside my skull. And then I had to start reaching out to people. You know, I spoke to the doctor. He put us in touch with one person. You know, no, actually, that didn't happen, doctor. No, what happened was, I've got thyroid eye disease. I had my thyroid took out, and my eyes end up swelling up. It's for life because they put us on a really high dose of medication for a period of time, and it was a side effect. So I had to go to the eye infirmary, you know, and they wanted to tap my eyes out and grind the sockets to my. I thought, you're not doing that. But this was later, you know. So I fucking sick guns in, and I used to put my chin on this thing, and they put these optical things in the eyes. I'm sure you've seen them in passing. And the woman was stunning. She was this Glaswegian. She looked like one of these sexy secretaries, but she was a consultant eye person, whatever the word is for that, right? So she says, will you come back next week? I says, all right, I will. I was going to ask her for her phone number. You know, I'm a mess. I'm stinking of piss and everything. So, so I went, but what she'd done, she'd put these drops in my eyes and she pressures, tests, it looked like them, wanted to see how they'd progressed a week later. So I'm not taking any of this in at the time. So I go back the next week, Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock clinic. There's me chin up again. She goes to look in my eyes and she pulls back and she says, can I ask you a question? And I said, aye. She went, have you been drinking? And I was like, aye. She went, are you an alcoholic? And I'd never ever said in bars when you're young and things like that, you know, it's like a badge of honour, hey, I'm a piss pot and all this, but like, you know, somebody asking you a serious question like that.
During the day.
Yeah, and I says, yes, you know. And she says, do you want any help with this? And I was like, aye, definitely. And it was like a God moment, you know. You could not have put this person in my path at that time, you know, any better. And she says, anyways, I'll refer you in. And I had to say this, what's now Weir Recovery, they were called something else at the time, Turning Point, I think they were called at the time. I had to go to the hospital, I had somebody based in an office in the general hospital, and that started the ball rolling. You know, but it took us about 3 months.
Aye.
It took us about 3 months to get where I needed to be. And I was just drinking the same, but a glimmer of hope had returned by then, you know, and I knew I was going to get some help.
It sounded like it just took that moment of someone actually caring about
Yeah,
you,
man.
and see who you really are through all of this, and see you're struggling.
Yeah.
And I think that was it.
Aye, definitely,
One thing,
man.
mate.
Definitely.
One person in this world, the consequence of that changes your path left.
Completely.
Or right,
Aye,
do you know what I mean?
completely. It's amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing,
Aye,
mate, do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I mean. All of these things are amazing moments. Some people don't get them though.
Yeah, I know.
Some people do get them.
Yeah.
But you saw it, and you did go down that road. And I think that's a massive thing. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So recovery then, what's that like?
At times that's been even harder than addiction.
Like off the wagon, how many times?
I had about 6 months. The treatment centre was 3 months. I was out 3 months and I drank. Not for long, for about 4 weeks, but it was intense. It was 24/7 for about 4 weeks, and I was in dire straits mentally. I had one, I can't remember when that was. I think I was working for Helen. I had one. And I had one I was out in California. I had in Fresno. I had one then. And then this one. That's just been.
Which
so
one?
that's.
And how long ago was the recent one?
Well, I went into treatment in December. That was with the benzos, and when I come off the benzos, I started to drink. So recovery, journey. You know, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about people. Learned a lot about life. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I know a lot more than I did before.
Yeah, sorry, John. I just wanted to say, because I did mention how many times did you fall off the wagon, because I know that this isn't ever an easy journey. And I know for the fact that everybody does at some point in time. There's nobody's going to be clean straight away, you know. And there's that both testament to you. Keep trying, mate. You know what I mean?
It's just for the day. That's where we try to live it. And I stay sober for the day. You know, today, tomorrow and yesterday are irrelevant. Stay sober today, get through that one. When I wake up tomorrow, just repeat the same scenario.
So you're not putting pressure on yourself to do it. Is that the key?
Aye. But people ask you, will you ever drink again? Well, I intend not to drink again. If I say, no, I'm definitely not going to drink again, it's a bit of that self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, where you trip yourself up. Don't set yourself targets that nobody can ever say that they never want to drink again. So you're setting yourself up to fail. It's much easier to say and much more real to say I intend never to drink again. But for today, I'm definitely not drinking. I won't have a drink today, no matter what happens. So let's let tomorrow take care of itself.
So let's talk about the recent, and then I want to talk about you and how you pass on your information and your experience to other people. So the benzos, is that right? Yeah. At what point did you? I know you mentioned it at the beginning. I just want to. What's that journey like? How did you get onto that? How did you get onto them?
How did I get on the benzos?
It's kind of like, what was that journey? Are you coming off one thing, trying to figure another thing out?
No, I was in an extremely stressed. I've had a really tough time, and that this is not, you know, I've a really tough time the last few years, and bounced through certain challenges one after the other.
What challenges are those, John?
Personal, that involved my son. Really, I didn't want to get too in depth.
No, but I just so I've got context.
All right,
Something. It's a family thing, and you're kind of dealing with loads of shit.
Yeah, my son come to live with us, and he's got very complex issues, both socially and mentally.
Okay.
And you know, the police have been in the house more than once.
So it's a stress that on top of your shoulders, and you're trying to do the best for him as well, and it kind of affects.
And we've had an enjoyable journey as well, me and him. It's been like that. But the highs has been incredible. You know, January 24, he's in Gleason's boxing gym sparring with professional fighters. You know, he'd only had 2 amateur fights himself. Brilliant. Pro coaches coming out and saying it was the English kid. You know, he's 15-year-old at the time. It's incredible. But there's been the opposites, and like I say, I felt a drink coming, you know, I just really did. I felt at the end of my tether. It wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't something that had been happening for a month. It was something that had been happening month in, month out, you know, and I just felt I couldn't go another step. And I could see a drink coming, and the last thing I wanted was to drink. Because I thought, if I drink all this hard work we've put in, and all these challenges we've overcome, it's just meaningless. Because it'll just turn to hell, like. And I got out of some dyer's apartment, it just took all the problems away. And if all they did was do what they see on the tin, the same as alcohol and any other drug, if that's all they did, then it wouldn't have been a problem.
Did you seek it out though? Did you kind of seek the medication out? You were like, right, I know a mate, he said he got off and that made him feel better. How did that come about? Do you know what I mean? Because you didn't just fall over them, did you?
No, I'd been prescribed them before in the past. I'd been prescribed when I was living at Roker Avenue when I was working with Helen. After I'd first getting sober, I struggled with my mental health badly. So it was of all the cogs were trying to get themselves put together. It was painful. It was painful in my head, not in a crazy way. It was like more physiological, you know. And things were like that had been knocked out of sync. Were trying to put themselves together, and it causes a lot of pain. And I had a great doctor. He tried everything, whereas sent us to all these things, and you know, he was more than happy to see us at a drop of a hat. And he was at this particular time, I went, I'm really done with this. Like, I'm really sick. I'm thinking about going back on the drink. He went, yeah, that's 10 days worth of these. I didn't know what they were at the time. I know now, even if I'd never took them, I would have heard of them.
Aye.
But and they just took all my problems away.
Yeah.
You know? And I went back asking for some more, and he went, no, I'm not giving you any more. He said, I'll give you them more in the future, but not now. He says, this is highly addictive. So I don't know, it was about a year later, a little bit of tension going on, and he gives us them again. I think at that time, it was for about 4 days, that's all. Whereas the first time was 10 days. And I knew what they did. But because I had such a short dose, stopping them was nothing.
Yeah.
It was just like, putting your knife and fork down after you finish your food.
Yeah.
But once you've been on them any more than 3 weeks, it's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah. So you kind of sort out, because it's easy
Sort
to
out
get
that ease and
someone to
comfort,
go,
yeah.
oh, yeah.
I was going through a tough time, and I thought, the bullshit I was telling myself was, I will only take them for a short period of time. But that just never, after I took the first one, that was never on the cards.
Aye.
You know?
Yeah. So tough one to come off them then, yeah.
Sorry?
Tough one to come off
I don't
them.
think there's anything tougher. Pharmaceutical drugs are so much more powerful than street drugs, and I don't think there's anything more powerful in the pharmaceutical world than benzodiazepines. That's why doctors are loath to prescribe them now. It's pre-printed on the bottom of all the yellow scripts, before they even put on what they're giving you the script for. This surgery does not prescribe long-term benzodiazepines.
And does that kind of, obviously that'll help you not go back on them again and not kind
I
of...
wouldn't touch them. I wouldn't go anywhere near them.
Really?
I mean, I can never say that about drink or any other drug, but the absolute fear of going through that again would, no chance of me going anywhere near them. I wouldn't be in the same room as them.
Yeah.
They are the keys to the gates of hell, them. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah. So you're clean now and you're doing good things for other people. What are you doing in your life now to kind of obviously put your experience and kind of help with this?
I'm involved in support groups, I'm very active in them. I go into them multiple times per week, different ones. I try to help other people who are brand new to this, help them understand it. So does pretty much everybody who, that are around in my support network. That's really the main thing, is you help yourself steer well by passing on what you've learned to the people who come through who haven't got a clue that there's a way out,
It gives you purpose though, doesn't it?
Of course. And I found that not just with my recovery, but with work. Because once I fell into that role with Helen, I found the feeling I got from in that type of role, in that type of structure of supporting other people who were more disadvantaged than anything I'd ever been. It was just so rewarding. So rewarding. Purpose is the good word. It was easy to get out of bed on the morning. The wages weren't great, but there was a buzz in doing it.
Yeah.
And especially when I'll tell you this very brief story. Harry will confirm this. Me and my pal, he's dead now, bless him, Craig. We're working together. We're a partnership pair, and we've got a phone from the council saying this our guy was sleeping in a storm shelter down Roker Seafront, right next door to the pub. We'll call it. Anyways, so the storm shelter, and he's there. Ken, he's called. So we're down every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, giving him a coffee, this, that, and the other. Let us help you. Nah. And it took months to find out why he was homeless. He'd worked in Germany, he'd worked all over the world, a pipe fitter. He had a private pension that he was waiting to cash in, but he was only telling half the story, right? So I went away on a secondment, and I was away 3 months, and I come back and Craig had found it all out. And Craig had him go and look at a flat. And he went and looked at the flat, and he looked at it and he went, nah, didn't want it. I want to sleep in the storm shelter. So nobody would understand why. So it was my very last year before I moved into another part of the organisation. And I met him at a soup kitchen, totally by accident. And I went, Ken, it's my last year today. Let us get you somewhere to live. Nah. And I went, all right, then tell us why you'll not accept it anymore. I said, just be honest with us, because I'm leaving tomorrow. It doesn't matter. And I had to pull it out of him. And it's turned out he had mental health issues, and he did have a couple of bob. When he went to the DWP or whatever it was at that time, they gave him all these searching for job conditions. It just freaked him out because he had mental health conditions, and he fantasised about this private pension, which he did have, but it was coming any minute. It was about 5 years down the line, and he's going to sleep in this storm shelter. I get to that one, I said, yeah, we've got a contact in the door and all that, I reckon I can get that bypassed, can you? So I took him in, and they gave him these pension credits, took him round, got him a flat, went in, and I said, there's me goodbye present, and that felt absolutely fantastic. because all he wanted was to see the boy, you know, just have somewhere to live.
Yeah.
He'd been going around his daughters, you know, getting a shower and pretending, you know, his boiler was off and things like that in the house, you know, and he's not telling him he was sleeping on the street.
Yeah.
And just, you know, and Craig was good at it. Because he tried, bless God rest his soul, he tried everything to get him somewhere to live.
Yeah. So what is that in him to kind of not accept anything and just kind of lie his way around it? It's a long time to lie for 5 years till he waits till he gets his pension.
I never really understood him that way.
Because sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just got to do enough to get him through the door.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you find that as well? Because it must be really hard to go. Because sometimes you'll overstep. Like, you know, I might be asking you questions, you know, well, I don't want to talk about this, Dan, do you know what I mean? So it's like, well, it's getting enough to kind of understand the situation, but sometimes you have to accept that they're not going to tell you.
No.
Do you know what I mean? That's really hard, I think.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, it's relationship building, you know, and it takes time. You're never going to get that in the first 2 or 3 times that you meet somebody, but there's always going to be an element where they didn't want to tell you. You know, people have got what they think are the deepest, darkest secrets. When they spew them out, to me and you, they just sound like another event on the street. You know? But to each one of us, I suppose, what's in the back of our mind, you didn't want to tell anybody else. And he didn't want to tell me this. You know, he thought I would push him in there and he would just hammer him all and more. And in the end, they told him he was entitled to these pension credits. He was, I don't know, he was 60 or something like that. That's a few years back. And he was like, I didn't know any of this. And he ended up with a few bob.
So you must, for me, your lived experience, for me, the people who are good at doing the thing should have lived it, I think. They're the best people to teach anybody because you've been through it. So I think your experience is invaluable to kind of pass on and help to others. Do you understand that? Because for me, I think you must have a psychology degree or 15 degrees over and over and over now, because you must understand people more than somebody who's actually studied for like 5 years.
Yeah. Be controversial, are you, like?
Please be controversial, because to me, there's somebody who's been taught it and there's somebody who's lived it.
Oh no, not about me being controversial. I need to choose my words carefully. Yeah.
I just thought you were going to call people out, because I don't like to education, all that kind of stuff. But for me, the lived experience is far greater.
Yeah, and I thought 100% that. Even though I work with people who maybe shouldn't have been working in that game, definitely one of them. I read this thing recently. There was this. Consensus is the wrong word, you know, where they ask people for the opinion and they might report out of it, whatever the correct word is for it. Aye. And as much as I believe lived experience, experts by experience, you know, peer support, all of that, it's definitely massive, and it definitely helps and it definitely works. But this report had been done, there's 2 sides to the story. There's the people who are not, you know, and we focus heavily on their. I've heard people say, and I've even heard the words come out of my mouth myself years ago, where it would be they don't know what it feels like. You know? Well, nobody knows what anybody feels like, in all honesty. I don't know what it feels like to be, you know, doing your position and things like that. But what the criticism was from the people who didn't have the lived experience was that they found that those with lived experiences, and I've seen this, and I've been close to doing it myself if I haven't already done it, was to be diagnosed to the client with my own self problems and then give them my solution and close off to what's actually really going on with them. And that happens quite a bit. So it's like, say for instance, you're working with an alcoholic, and in my psyche, my reasons for me being an alcoholic, they might have that trauma-based thing that we were talking about earlier. And I'm going, no, that's not that, man. It's, you were born this way, and you know, and you need to go and say such and such. That mightn't work for them. And because I'm an expert by experience, I know best. The doctor walks out and says, you know, that's not what this person needs. The next thing you know, I'm fighting with the doctor. How do you know? So there's 2 sides. There's 2, and I think they're both equally valid. You know, it's where do you find the middle ground?
It is, and where do you find the middle ground?
That's a hard one, yeah. Hard one.
But again, I think you're self-aware enough that you've just, you call yourself out on that, so now you're aware of not doing that, because you know there's a consequence to that. Do you know what I mean? There's so many knock-on effects with the actions that we do, and also we love to try and fix. Sometimes you can't.
No. Sometimes you really can't.
So,
somebody I respect who's died now, man, he says, sometimes you've just got to let people allow to die. especially in the game of addiction and things like that. Happens all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, is there a common trait that you see in people with addiction?
Yeah, selfishness. Very much selfishness. Totally unaware that they're selfish. Fantasy. But what you were talking about, maybe it's not wanting so much being somebody else, but not be yourself. You know, escape from yourself. Self, really. Escape from yourself. Selfishness. When I mean selfishness, I don't mean as in gluttony. I mean like, the world revolves around us. You know, you have to fit, your dance moves have to fit with my music. You know, it's that type of thing. And people getting resentment's a big one. People are, I think that kind of ties in with what you were talking about, trauma. You know, living in the past, somebody harmless, whether it be fancied or real, can drink on that for decades. Absolute decades. Hating somebody, maybe it's hating somebody who's already dead. Them type of traits, very negative, you know. And I think when people are sober up, it's really hard to look at themselves as that and want to hide from that. That can cause a bit relapse in the early days, to the point that you look and say, is that really me? Is that the way I've behaved? Is that the way I think? Is that the way I feel? And then in doing so, well, what can I do about it? I think they're powerful traits.
What's the solution to that then, John?
What you've already mentioned, being helpful to others, but I think that's not the instant solution, because you can do that with the wrong motives. One trying to help other people just to make yourself feel better is the wrong thing to do. But really looking at yourself and sharing that honestly with another, like in this scenario, if I didn't have that camera, I've told you some personal things about me with that camera on, but I would never have told you that 14 years ago. And I think if you sat somebody who was newly sober now, they wouldn't tell you anything if that's gone on inside of them, being in prison, saying this old guy thought that could be me one day. That's quite a big, you know, that's quite a big thing to say. But sitting down with somebody who's trying to help you and getting that crap out and then getting it right sized, you know, and then looking at what probably, you know, defects that I've got that, you know, make us automatically propel that way, live that way. What do I need to look at to stop myself repeating them same mistakes, that respond instead of react? And that's a work in progress. I think you're not going to get good at that in the first 5 years anyway. And then when you're at that position that you're aware of what's going on with you and you're aware of what actions you needed to take to not fix that, but to put 24 hours behind you, then maybe turn around and help somebody else, swap the seat. You know?
So it's yeah, I've got like too many things going on in my head. I'm going to try and whittle it down, John, because we can finish on a message. Yeah. What advice would you give to anybody out there who's suffering? Because it clearly is. It's a work in progress all of the time. Do you know what I mean? What would you say to somebody who's kind of suffering from issues that you've had, addiction, stuff like that?
Tell somebody. And that's a broad statement. Who to tell? Well, you've got to tell somebody. But, you know, look it up for yourself. You know, on the internet. I've got a problem with alcohol. Who can I talk to? Phone somebody up and, you know, get some suggestions off them where to go next. And then if you do decide to follow that path, then it's about getting honest. It's about getting honest about what's your problem, where you can get help from. Do you really want the help? Because a lot of people want it just to get out of the fire, and once it's in the frying pan, they just return again. It takes a commitment, you know, to keep going. But honesty, reach out for help. Now, I could sit and rattle off 20, 30 things, but I don't think they're appropriate at the moment. But if you go on Google and see an alcohol problem, it'll tell you them.
Yeah, I think just to finish on this, from people I've interviewed who've been through something really extreme, that complete and open honesty about themselves and their mistakes and who they are, there's an actual, I see it in people's faces, in their eyes, there's a freedom to it.
Yeah, man.
It's just a lift of kind of, you can't hold us down because I've worn me stuff, I've worn me bad things. There seems to be that. Is that a genuine thing as well?
Yes. That isn't, you don't wonder about in a permanent state like that, but it comes and goes, it returns, depends on how much effort you're putting into walking this path. But yeah, when it's on you, it's probably the best drug of all.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Lovely
Thank
stuff,
you, Dan.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a squeeze. It was brilliant. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I think you get